Abla Abdel Latif, Executive Director and Director of Research of the Egyptian Center for Economic Studies. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Our pleasure. So the big headline of our session would be the connectivity between Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. But first, let's discuss a bit the current world order. How do you see it, and what is the path forward, especially now under a second Trump term?
The current economic order proved to be inappropriate as back as the time of COVID, and even before that, when the climate issues emerged to the ground big time, and we saw how unfair so many things are in relation to continents like Africa, countries in Latin America. It became very clear that there is a need for a change in this economic order. It is based on the Bretton Woods Agreement after the Second World War. The power balance at the time is completely different from what we have now. So the division of people, okay, and the economic power are completely different. And this calls for change, where the South has a much louder voice. It's not a matter of being around the table to talk about things, but actually being able to influence the policies to their interest. And this cannot be done except by an actual change in the full order. All attempts to redesign the World Bank, the IMF, in order to correct their position in favor of the unfortunate countries does not help much, because the decision-making process is still the same, the management is still the same, so they will not reduce their own power in order to be of more benefit to the South. And because of that, the economic order needs to be completely changed.
When it comes to Europe and Asia...
I'm sorry, Trump's beginning, okay, proves more so how urgent this change needs to be. It's as simple as that.
And when it comes to Europe and Asia in specific, what is the interest of Europe in Asia and vice versa?
Okay. When you talk about the interest of Europe in Asia, Europe sees Asia as two parts. The two big players in Asia are China and India. Okay, China is a rival, competitor, and sometimes an ally, depending on what topics you are talking about. So the position of Europe towards China is very similar to the US one, but different, because at least they see that there is a general interest in the world where they need the collaboration of China, given how big it is. And this part, because of this type of relation, is making the EU take positions that are against China, firstly in the area of competition. But then countries within Europe do not have a unified position towards that part of the world, because China has had relations with them for many, many, many years. And so, for example, recently when they tried to put a tariff on the electric cars that are coming from China, Germany refused, France refused. Okay, why? Because they have strong economic relations with them. So they do not have a unified position. But that's always like, you're my friend, but you're not my friend, etc. Okay, like I said, rival, competitor, okay, and ally. All right, all three together. On the India side, okay, this is different. India is looked at as a strong ally, and it emerged from the time India had G20 over there. It came up with a strong positioning for India in the world as a leader of the global South, and Europe wants to be connected with that. So from that time on, okay, there has been, and it's been like a couple of years only, but during those couple of years, there are partnership agreements. They are working together on things related to the cleaning of the environment, to having strong commercial relations. This is being pushed more from India than from Europe, but Europe is responding. Okay, so India's interest in Europe is to replace China as a partner to Europe, and it's very difficult to do that because China has been there for a much longer time as far as economic relations are concerned. So it's very difficult, but they are trying very, very hard. Okay, during those last couple of years. Okay, and Europe is in a way responding through this global gateway. Which is 300 billion euros that are assigned by Europe to be spent on infrastructure to improve the connectivity. So India is pushing for the connectivity, and Europe is doing the same. And it's from here that IMEC emerged and the role of the Middle East emerged.
And which EU member states are swiftly moving toward this engagement with Asia?
And not the big ones, okay? For example, Germany, France, Italy is somewhere in between. The others, okay, are leaning towards that, but they could not get a majority vote on those tariffs on the electric cars, which tells you something.
Can we see changes in the future?
EU is suffering at this point by not being unified. And that's the problem. The EU does not have a unified position at the political level or at the economic level. And this is actually hurting the entire world because it's leaving the US to play on its own. And God knows that it's going to play a lot, right? So actually, what we need very badly, and this is what I always say in all our European areas, that we need a unified Europe that takes its proper positioning in the world politically so that the US would not be playing alone and we would have a fairer situation. The reason why we are in so much trouble is because the EU is very weak and the South is too divided to be existent. And this is why, and this has to be acknowledged, that what India did when G20 was there was actually very strong. For example, they added the African Union for the first time to the G20, which is a plus. Okay, but then the African countries need to be united in order to have an actual position. But I'm saying India is emerging as the voice of the South, and that's good. And this is why we are all for this connectivity. But of course, this connectivity has to include the entire Middle East.
Middle East. Let's move to the Middle East. What roles does connectivity play in the strategic aims of the Middle East as a region, including Gulf states, of course, and its partners in Europe?
Okay. Again, this works both ways. Okay. Europe is very interested in the Middle East now, way more than before, especially after the war in Ukraine. Okay, and after they lost their oil and gas supply from Russia. All right, so we became very, very attractive, okay, to Europe, and they are trying to establish linkages with countries in North Africa, like Egypt, and of course with the Gulf, in order to, in a strategic way, in order to have access to the oil. This is really the main reason. Something else also, there are lots of investments that are migrating from Europe. And Europe is no longer is less interested in China than it used to be. So the foreign direct investment in China is also going down. Everybody is migrating, and this is actually a good opportunity for the Middle East, especially countries like Egypt. Okay, not the Gulf in this case, countries like in North Africa, because we have the capabilities and actually we have the people and stuff. So there is lots of migrating wave of foreign direct investment, and that's positive. The Gulf in specific, okay, has been pushing for connectivity, and in a way, the geopolitical problems in the region, okay, push them to try and have connectivity with Asia, okay, and link with Europe on their own, avoiding other countries in the Middle East, which doesn't make any sense, okay? Because Egypt, with its Suez Canal, where you have 12% of the global trade and 30% of the commodity trade going through, okay, cannot be excluded from such a relation, even if the Houthis are attacking at the Red Sea. These are very temporary situations. These are hiccups. So you cannot, on the basis of hiccups, okay, create other roads that are not looking at these countries. Okay, I see them from an economic point of view as a deadweight loss. In economics, you call it a deadweight loss when you have an investment that's not benefiting anybody. It could have been avoided. Okay, the core should be in solving the political situation in the Middle East and regaining the rights of the Palestinians and acknowledge their right to the land in order to have peace in this area. The Gulf is very interested in the connectivity, and what they did is, again, following G20 meetings in India, the idea of IMEC was introduced, okay, which is the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, and it's being pushed for, but it's more rhetoric than actual work on the ground. Okay, it's more of a concept of connectivity than actual work, especially after what Israel did last year. All right, it stopped everything, and it made things difficult for the implementation of this line of connectivity For example, the junction between Jordan and Israel is going to be even tougher now. I mean, when you look at the announcements every day, okay, if you intended to deal with them before, now you're saying, well, no way, all right? The Saudis were about to normalize with Israel. Again, there is a question mark. The tension with Iran, okay? All of this is putting question marks on the implementation of IMEC and is putting question marks on the connectivity between those two continents via the Middle East, okay? And the focus should be on, one, regaining the peace in the Middle East properly so that you would end the war permanently, okay? And this involves a lot of repositioning, especially by the US. That's one. Two, making the existing corridors, okay, more efficient, okay, by adding countries that are naturally relevant to this type of connectivity. Okay, this is where we are right now.
Even though some said that IMEC and other trade corridors might find priority now under Trump, you don't see this?
No, I don't see this for a very simple reason. Because the reason it's not being implemented is because the what is happening in the region is not resolved. You do not have the ceasefire is not a peace treaty. It's not a two-state solution. Actually, you stop the war and then the next day you said, okay, Egypt take some Palestinians, Jordan take some Palestinians, let's clean this place. Okay, this is going to make the situation boil even more. And then you're adding Iran as an explicit enemy, and this is also related to the Red Sea. Okay, everything here is related to the IMEC. All right, and so no, its implementation is going to be tougher, and the focus should be on looking at the elephant in the room, which everybody is avoiding, which is the core problem of this region. This is how you're going to have the proper connectivity. One last thing that I want to mention, and it's important on the connectivity thing, with the digital transformation and with the importance of AI. All the infrastructure related to AI is actually in cables, okay, that are actually maritime cables, okay, 60% of which are actually in the Suez Canal, okay. So we need more investments here, okay. We need more work here to have better real connection, and we want a world that's working together, collaborating together, not relationship based on rivalry. We can't afford rivalry, not in climate, not for communities, not for anybody. We cannot afford rivalry in the world. We have to work together. And this means work together in the region and work together internationally.
Abla Abdel Latif, thank you so much. It was a great discussion. Thank you.